Hello and welcome to another edition of M-Dreaded Television. Unfortunately, today I'll be discussing something rather depressing. A few days ago, a young man called Rob Knox, 18 years old, an actor who had everything going in his life, was stabbed to death outside a bar in Sidcup. There's another very tragic waste of a young life, and extremely depressing, quite frankly. And lots of people have lots of ideas of how to solve the crisis within our youth, especially here in London. Even since then, there's been a fight that seems very involved in knives already. This weekend alone. There's been a young man up in Yorkshire who's been stabbed to death by an Asian lad. And you do wonder, how do we get through to our youth, who are obviously in some kind of crisis? Well, what do you do? I mean, the obvious solution is more stop and search, setting up airport-style security in schools that have a problem with it. But to me, that is not the way forward. That will not work. That will only serve one purpose, and that, to isolate the youth even further. The problem is, young people in the 21st century feel completely alienated. They feel they don't belong anywhere. They don't feel they fit in. As adults, in effect, demonize them. Even though it's actually happened before, but not on the scale that it does now. Unfortunately, the media made the problem worse by making out that they seem to label all young people as yobs, as troublemakers, when it's only really a small minority who cause the trouble. And to just set, this airport-style security in schools and places, just to me is tiptoeing very, very quickly into a police state. Do we really want to, treat all young people as suspects? You see, the problem is what happened in the last 20 or 30 years. We've seen the almost radical changes in the structure of the family unit. We've also seen parents having to go to work for longer hours for effectively the same or less pay. You've also seen youth provision being completely demolished, adding to the fact that many parents are so scared that they keep their children wrapped up in cotton wool. Middle-class parents I'm talking about, and working-class parents that have a stable family. Then you got those so-called, what people label as feral youth, who are completely isolated. They feel they've got nowhere to turn. So what do? They get together. Their sense of a family becomes twisted. And then you get the gangs, the postcode gangs, knife gangs, gangs with different cultures, gangs with multiple sets of cultures and things like that. So I'll tell you whose fault it is. I believe that many people should look in the mirror. That's whose fault it is. It's yours. We have completely, over the last decade, 2 decades or so, neglected our young. We have demonized them, and then we force-feed them into this, fantasy world, of commercial television and stuff like that. It sounds like a strange link, but hear me out. We forced them into this, this environment that to get ahead, you've got to have the latest clothes, you've got to have the bling. You've got to have this, you've got to have that. Okay, we've had fashions in the past, but never on this scale. We even had, brand marketing and all that. You can't be anything unless you've got lots of money and flashy car and clothes. You can't do anything, no. But instead of, and then you got then you add to the fact that you've got isolated young people who feel completely alienated, have no strong male role model or female role model by their own hands. And they're left completely out of sync, isolated. And then, as I've said before, they go towards the gangs because that's the only family they've got, effectively. And we reap what we have sown. We have allowed ourselves to become obsessed with style, status, money. And look what happens. The young people look at that, hey, I want some of that, but I'm not getting any, so I'm going to take it. Or I'm going to, have this gang and we can be all big and hard and scare people. So we can have a sense of power and look cool. So really, I'll tell you what the solution is. Start talking to our young people again, properly. And stop demonising them. Or else you're going to get more tragedies of what's happened to poor Rob Knox, who's a completely innocent guy. He had nothing to do with gangs. That poor Asian lad that was stabbed in the last couple of days has just come on the news this morning. We really got to get a grip of this situation, but I think we're going the wrong way. All we're doing, effectively, if you're going to start introducing airport-style security in problematic schools, or in tube stations, or whatever, or buses, for me that's just going to further alienate the young. We have got to get back in touch with young people if we are going to find a solution to this violence. I think it's a disgrace for the way this country is treating our young. I think it's absolutely disgraceful. I think we should all hang our heads in shame of what has happened. We have got to get, as I say, we must start communicating properly with our young people and stop demonising them, and maybe, just maybe, we can save some lives along the way too. That is all I've got to say. So feel free to add some comments on YouTube. Critical ones too. I don't mind. We live in a democracy. So please, feel free to comment and react. And until the next time, please take care of yourselves. Alright, take care. Bye.